welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. And happy Tuesday, my friends and everybody out there. Hopefully you're all having a very nice day. On today's episode of Prime Sports World, we're going to be breaking down the Carolina Panthers season preview, talking about a little bit about their record, a little bit about the team, and just, general talk about the Carolina Panthers. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point Huffman. Thank you very much for checking us out. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast here at Prime Sports World. I've also shared the StreamYard link in all of the places. So if you want to join me and talk a little Carolina Panthers football, please feel free to do so. Bail me out so I don't have to do this show by myself, because that's how it's going to be for the rest of the show, at least unless Izzy jumps in, because everybody else is busy. I've also shared our streaming platforms as well. So if you want to check us out, if you do happen to miss us live, we have a plethora of streaming platforms you can watch us on. But yeah, Carolina Panthers, third team in the NFC South. We've already done the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints. Those are on our Facebook page and our YouTube and our Twitch, all available if you want to watch those as well. But today, talking about the Carolina Panthers, really a couple of changed games here and there. Could have easily won this division and been a playoff team this past season. And maybe we're not talking about, the firing of the head coach losing their job here. Obviously Matt Rule was already going to get fired, but maybe the replacement coach, keeps his job if he gets the Carolina Panthers to the playoffs. I'm sorry, I do not remember the name of the head coach that was there after Matt Rule got fired. If you do know it, please let me know down in the comment section. I'd love for you guys to tell me who it is, because I would appreciate it. But let's get into it. Let's talk about some storylines when it comes to the Carolina Panthers. There's no great shock here that they're in a full rebuild. You don't trade away your best receiver and a bunch of draft capital to try to, but you do have some interesting pieces here on this team. Let's get into it. Let's first talk about Frank Wright. He comes in from being with the Indianapolis Colts, was successful there as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Unfortunately, after Andrew Luck retired, shockingly, he really never was able to really turn the ship around. They tried, they had Philip Rivers there, who was a pretty good quarterback there for that one season. Then they tried, basically season after season, they tried a different quarterback to see if they could, bridge the gap, and they never really committed. And he basically got lame duck there. He was in the final year of his contract. Writing was pretty apparent on the wall that he was going to get fired. But he has, as a coach, he was at the Eagles coaching staff that really did get the best out of Carson Wentz, which is why the Indianapolis Colts got him. He's a good head coach. He's a good offensive coordinator, and he should be good for Bryce Young. But when his expectations of Frank, I think if you're one of those guys that expects them to make the playoffs in the first season, I think those are lofty expectations. I don't think that's realistic. Can this team win 7 or 8 games this season? Yeah, they did that last season with wildly inaccurate, with super inconsistent quarterback play from Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, PJ Walker. I know there were there were other guys that took snaps for this Carolina Panthers football team, but none of those quarterbacks are really proven. They leaned on the running game. They leaned on, was it Ike Ekwonu, their first-round pick in this most recent draft, who was incredible this season. We'll just call a spade a spade. He was a really good rookie. He was a very good left tackle. I made the argument when we did the awards prediction, and I thought one of those left tackles that were drafted this year should have been the offensive rookie of the year. They were the most impactful player on the offensive side of the football out of all of the offensive players. So yeah, I think Frank Wright, year one expectations. I think that you expect this team to win 7, 8 games. It really depends how Bryce Young ends up playing here. By all accounts, he's looked really good in training camp. He's looked really good in OTAs. He's looked really good in the rookie min caps. So that's all promising. I still have some concerns about some of the weapons on this team, especially at the wide receiver position, and then at the running back even too. With Deontay Foreman no longer being on this roster, he's now in Chicago as one of the Bears. Chris McCaffrey's not walking back through that door. They have Chuba Hubbard, who's still a solid running back, still solid. I don't know if he's necessarily an every down back because he seems to get banged up a lot. But with Frank Wright, year one expectations, I think if you set your standards at 6 to 7 games winning for the Carolina Panthers, I think that's pretty solid expectations. Let's talk about the DJ Moore, the second storyline that I'm following here when it comes to the Carolina Panthers. DJ Moore is one of those underrated wide receivers in the National Football League. He is not a household name. He's not one of those big name guys that you kind of really, like you're not like really excited about having him on your team in a fantasy football draft, but the guy is productive. He's had 3 straight outside of this past season with the inconsistent quarterback play, 63 catches, 888 yards, and then 7 touchdowns. The 3 seasons before that, all over 1,000 yards. And the Carolina Panthers quarterback situation has been all over the place the last couple seasons. I couldn't tell you who their quarterback was 2 years ago. I know they had Cam Newton for that one game where he came back and won, and then he struggled after that. But DJ Moore has been a really productive player for the Carolina Panthers. He's going to be difficult to replace. The guys are going to have to take on this responsibility. Terrence Marshall, who has shown some flashes here and there. DJ Chark, who they got in free agency. Adam Thielen, who they got in free agency. Jonathan Mingo, who they got in the draft in the third round, I want to say. They got Laviska Shenault, Shi Smith, who was a signing from the New Orleans Saints. Zamir Bird has been along the league kind of a lot. They're going to have these guys to really try to replace the production that you got out of DJ Moore. I'm just not sure how that's going to look and what it's going to be like. It's a very tricky situation to talk about who's going to replace DJ Moore. You don't just replace DJ Moore with one guy. It's going to have to be sort of a wide receiver by committee here. Adam Thielen has the cachet. He's got the name recognition because of that season in Minnesota, but Minnesota released him for a reason. He wasn't as productive based on injury and his usage last season. That's why he was expendable. DJ Chark, is a solid number 2. I don't think you can expect too much more out of him. He's bounced around the league. This is probably his 4th team in 4 years. He's been around. He's a good wide receiver, but he's nothing special. Terrence Marshall, I think, is really the X factor here when it comes to Carolina Panthers and these pass catchers, along with Hayden Hurst, who I really like at the tight end position. I also am a fan of Tommy Tremble, who's got some upside, and then Ian Thomas, who's just kind of there. He's a blocking tight end. Take it as what you will. But yeah, I think it's going to be difficult to replace DJ Moore. He's a really good wide receiver. I mean, if you get one DJ Chark, you get DJ Moore, but I think Terrence Marshall is the guy who's really going to need to step up. You remember that catch he made last season where he kind of caught it in between his legs? I think you're just going to need way more productive out of Terrence Marshall than you've seen out of him. You're also going to need production out of the tight end position out of Hayden Hurst. That's why you go get that guy. I mean, he was good in Carolina. He was good in Cincinnati last season. He was good in Baltimore the season before that. The guy just, wherever he goes, he always gets you 50 some catches. He's a productive tight end. But yeah, so let's talk about how good this defense can be. They have some sneaky good pieces on this defensive side of the football. Derek Brown first was a top 10 pick a few years ago. Brian Burns, a multi-sack, 10+ sack guy every season. Shaq Thompson is a good, outside left interior linebacker. Deontay Jackson bounced around the league a little bit. Von Bell, a big free agent signing from the Cincinnati Bengals. Xavier Woods was with the Eric Rowe, Jeremy Chin, an underrated safety as well, who was really good for them his rookie season. He has gotten progressively not as good since the time has gone by. And then, J.C. Horn, son of Joey Horn, the famous wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. J.C. Horn has been everything you could advertise in a top 10 pick at the cornerback position. He's been legit awesome. And Brian Burns, he's a really, really good edge rusher. There's a reason that Carolina was like, we're not going to let him go unless you give us 2 first-round picks. He's been excellent for them. He's got 12 sacks most recent season, 9 sacks, 7.5 going into his 5th NFL season. Brian Burns has been really good. This defense has the opportunity to really be the reason that the Carolina Panthers even won games last season and ended up with 7 wins and being a fringe playoff team. Sure, I already talked about this a million times, that the NFC South was the worst division in football last year. But they really were in the thick of it. They could have easily won the division if a couple things just go right for them. Let me take a look at their yardage per game. So I'm running this by myself, so it's a little bit harder to pull up stats and stuff when I got nobody else in the show with me. So you just got to bear with me for just a second here. Okay. So Carolina, so they were sort of towards the bottom of the league when it comes to yards given up. which is tough. But you got to figure it like this: their offense was on the field so much. Their defense is on the field; they just got burnt out. Like they just that's the way things go. Sometimes when you're playing, you don't have to play as much as the Carolina Panthers because their offense was so inept last season. They're middle of the pack in points allowed, games yards, points allowed, 22 points per game. So I do think this defense could be one of the lone bright spots when we talk about the Carolina Panthers. When we're talking about them next offseason. Like their defense should be really solid this upcoming season and should be able to carry this team, at least on the defensive side of the football. Also, welcome to the show, CEO, Mr. Israel Rivera. Let's talk about this Carolina Panthers defense, my friend.
What's going on, guys? Yeah, man, Carolina Panthers, just looking at their depth chart here, I mean, they got a lot of bright. I mean, J.C. Horn's a bright spot here. Von Bell's a bright spot on this defense. Jeremy Chin, I love Jeremy Chin. I was raving about Jeremy Chin last year. But I just think that
he's kind of fallen in the pecking order. Like they don't even have him listed as their starting safety, either safety.
I don't know why. I don't know why. You know, they got Eric Rowe.
He was really good his rookie season. I just think he kind of fell off a little bit last season.
But. Yeah, just a little bit. I've been raving about him, you know, since he's came in the league. I think he'll step up this season, man.
Me too. I like Derek Brown. I mean, all solid.
I mean, Shaq Thompson, Yachira Gross-Matos. They got a lot of guys on this. Brian Burns, obviously, they got a lot of guys on this defense that could potentially be probably the best defense in the NFC South. I know that's not saying much.
I think the Falcons. I think the Falcons are gonna have something to say about that. Let me tell you.
Oh my God, you're with this Falcons love over here. I don't get it.
I just think you look at their defense on paper, Atlanta, like they should have a really solid defense. Like they should.
Atlanta should, but I think
Campbell's there now. I mean,
this Carolina Panthers team was top 10 last year? In terms of defense, or was it 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago. Yeah, they were towards the bottom of the league. I just looked
bottom of the league last year.
But the thing is, they were also on the football field a ton. Like because this offense just wasn't good last season at all.
Yeah. And then in terms of your first question, or not first question. Well, I guess I can answer the first two questions in a nutshell. Expectations. I think that this team first year can compete. I think they have a shot just as much as any other team in the NFC South has a shot besides the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think this team has a solid defense. I think when you look at the wide receiver core, it's going to be done by a collective unit. They're talking about using Laviska Shenault in a more in the offense next season. Frank Reich's looking to use him more in the offense next season. I love Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss. You don't replace DJ Moore because that guy right there was one of the more underrated wide receivers that put up some great stats in Carolina Panthers. I mean, he's up there in Carolina Panthers franchise history and with some of his stats. So when you're looking at a guy, I mean, you added Adam Thielen, DJ Shark, Terrence Marshall was a nice young player. I think Laviska Shenault can be a jack of all trades type of guy. If I'll
believe it when I see it.
I'm not. Look, David, I'm right. So I'm not moving off of it because I've raved about him. I loved him when he was at Colorado. I think he's that Percy Harvin type of player where he can take a jet sweep to the house, where he can run. They're trying to use him like a Deebo Samuel this year. That's what Frank Reich said. That's what the rumblings of the Carolina Panthers organization.
I just don't think that's going to be it. I just don't believe in it. I just don't believe he's going to.
You don't think that he's going to be used as Deebo Samuel, or you don't think he's going to have the same type of production as a Deebo Samuel?
I don't think you'll have even close to that kind of production.
But Jonathan Mingo's a big guy. So to answer both questions, I think this is the team that could possibly win 7 games, maybe 8. Maybe
I said 5 to 7.
Compete with the NFC South, yeah. But when you're talking about replacing DJ Moore, it's going to have to be a collective unit. It's not going to just be one guy that's going to stand out. But I think when I look into the future, I think Jonathan Mingo is a step in the right direction.
Moving on from the storylines, let's talk about their draft. Obviously, took Bryce Young, number 1 overall, as they trade up with the Chicago Bears. Trading up to get Bryce Young. They take Jonathan Mingo with a lot of still really good wide receivers on the board, and took Jonathan Mingo over like Jalen Hyatt, who's still on the board here. And then round 3, they took DJ Johnson as on Oregon. Chandler, oh man, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not going to try. Guard out of NC State, and then Jamie Robinson, safety out of Florida. If you just looking at their draft, I think, they took the right guy in Bryce Young. I think he's looked great in OTAs, but everybody says like, how often do you hear like, oh, this guy looks terrible in OTAs? Like, it just doesn't happen.
It's practice, bro.
Yeah,
that's the best way I can say.
And I guess the only complaint, I just don't. I know you're high on Jonathan Mingo, but I just don't love taking him over like a Jalen Hyatt or other wide receivers who were quote unquote better at that position. I think I would have and like those guys were still on the board. Like, they didn't have to take.
You also got to look at the quarterback situation at Ole Miss, which was kind of wishy-washy.
I mean, you had Matt Corral there.
That was what
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah, I think Jackson Dart was the guy last year. So I mean, and he had a good season, 860. He had his best season last year, but he's a big guy, 6'2", 225. He's made in the sense of like AJ Brown. That's the type of comparison.
They did go to the same college.
They did go to the same college, exactly. Bryce Young, we already know about Bryce Young. I mean,
Tank Dell was still on the board. Jalen Hyatt. I mean, Cedric Tillman. I think all those. Josh Downs was still there.
I don't see. That's the thing, though, is that I think a guy like Jonathan Mingo, when you look at the improvement from junior season to senior season, it was like a 500-yard difference. I do think he did deal with some injuries his junior year, his third year in college, but still, nonetheless, he's a big guy. He's made for the NFL. He's got an NFL ready body. He can run a lot of routes.
I mean, he could essentially be the DJ Moore replacement. He's built just like him.
I was just saying that. And so I'm over here trying to share the show, guys. Go ahead and watch the show, guys. If you're watching it, share the show and let everybody know. The one guy I do like, skip DJ, skip Chandler Zavala. I mean, those were needs. But I like Jamie Robinson from Florida State. I was high on him. I thought I really wanted Green Bay Packers. I wanted to get him around this time. I really am high on Jamie Robinson. I think that's a good value pick in the 5th round. I actually like this draft. I'm gonna give it a B plus. I'm gonna give it a B plus. I mean, in my opinion, you get a franchise quarterback in Bryce Young. Jonathan Mingo, if he pans out, he can be a Pro Bowl type wide receiver. And then a guy like DJ Johnson, he can get to the quarterback a little bit.
4.49
could be a value pick.
4.49 in the 40. 6'4", 260 pounds. So
yeah, and a guy like Jamie Robinson, I mean, he's got range. He can hit in the open field.
I would be pretty shocked if he played at all this season. I mean, at the safety position,
there's a lot of right.
I mean, Von Bell, Xavier Woods, Eric Rowe, Jeremy Chin. Although I read on the internets that they may use Jeremy Chin as like a roaming linebacker this particular season.
Well, when I'm looking at a depth chart, they got him as a nickelback.
Yeah, they got him as like the nickelback, a free safety. I think he's going to play a lot of linebacker this season.
Well, now these days, he's a big guy. He's a big safety. Yeah. Now these days, though, you see teams more or less go into that 3 safety look now on the field with as a big nickel. So that's why he's there slotted as a nickel because he's a big nickel. So that's that 3 safety kind of wave that we're seeing now in the NFL. So this kid, I mean, may have some potential to see the field at some point, spelling some of those guys or barring injury. He's definitely going to be a guy that's going to contribute on special teams. I'll give this draft class a B. even
Yeah,
almost a B plus. I think there's a lot of value here,
I'll
especially
go
with
B.
DJ Johnson in third round.
I'll go B minus. I don't love the Jonathan Mingo pick. I think there were better wide receivers they could have taken. That's just my straight up opinion.
The one thing that I can say is why they passed up on those other guys. Cedric Tillman injury issues. Jalen Hyatt hasn't really proven that he can run other routes other than the deep route.
True.
Tank Dell, the same thing. Hasn't really proven that he can run other routes in the deep route. Plus, they're in a pass-centric offense with
Houston.
quarterback. Yeah, with Houston, but I mean their quarterback. Anyways, it doesn't even matter who their quarterback was. That offense is just they pass first, pass heavy. So that's the reason why I think.
I mean, Case Keenum threw for like 700 yards a game when he was in that offense.
Jesus, yeah. So
moving on from the draft, let's talk about free agency. So their roster shakeup. So their notable additions: Adam Thielen, Miles Sanders, Von Bell, Hayden Hurst, Andy Dalton. Most of them on the offensive side of the ball. Key departures: DJ Moore, Corey Littleton, and PJ Walker, who's now a Chicago Bear. Not a lot of notable names to talk about in the departure list outside of DJ Moore, who's a big loss, but he had to. This is what it costs to move up to the first overall pick. They didn't have a choice.
Well, I love the Miles Sanders edition. Love the Hayden Hurst edition and the Von Bell edition. Andy Dalton, good safety bridge, good mentor of a quarterback for Bryce Young in his first year, right? A guy that's been to the playoffs multiple times, had success in the league, has been a starter for a very long time. He's definitely moved into that mentor, that bridge quarterback way. And he's a safety net, right? So if say something, Bryce Young's a little undersized, say, he's a quality backup, right? He's a guy, if Bryce Young gets dinged up or gets hurt in the NFL in his rookie season, I mean, Andy Dalton's a guy that could come in and possibly win you a game or two. Right?
And he's a consummate pro. I mean, if Bryce Young, maybe he's not ready to start day one, you can roll out Andy Dalton and then he will be semi-productive for you this upcoming season. But I also think Carolina, your motivation to win games this season has to be pretty high. I mean, you traded away two picks in the upcoming draft, a first round, so you don't want to be the bottom feeder of the NFL this season. Like, you want to win games. And if Andy Dalton gives you a better chance to win games, I think that's what you do. And I love the Hayden Hurst. I think Hayden Hurst is one of those tight ends. He's just a difference maker.
Definitely a difference maker. And then Adam Thielen, he's over the hill. Bit of a shell of himself here, but he's a guy that you're going to add to the wide receiver room. He's going to be a guy that's, he's pretty much going to move into that, possibly that number one slot in this wide receiver core. And he's going to be a good bridge wide receiver. I don't know if he can give you 1,000-yard season or a 900-yard season, but he's a guy that could teach some of the young guys, take Jonathan Mingo under his wing. Yeah. He can help out a DJ Shark. He can help out who's the other guy that they have here? Terrence Marshall. Because because I mean, Adam Thielen's still gonna command attention. I mean, you can't just sleep on the guy because you think he's getting old or whatever. I mean, he's a guy that's still going to command some attention. He can run good routes still. He's been, pretty healthy majority of his career. So he's a good guy. He's a good safety net for Bryce Young in his first year.
And this is a Carolina Panthers team that ran with 10th in the top 10 in rushing yards this past season at 130 per game. And they get Miles Sanders, who's better than any of the running backs they were rolling out this past season.
Absolutely. So, I think that's a slam dunk right there for them with Miles Sanders. Yeah. And then also you still got Chuba Hubbard, right? Yep. So, you still have a good 1-2 punch there in Carolina.
And they have Raheem Blackshear, who I still like. This is a running back room that's really loaded. Like, there should be solid there. Like, I kind of like this Carolina Panthers team on paper more than I thought I would.
Yeah, no, especially on defense. I mean, I'm just looking at down the line at their defense. I mean, even like some, Eric Rowe, Xavier Woods, Von Bell, J.C. Horn, Brian Burns, Shaq Thompson, Yatir Grossmodels.
Derek Brown,
these are solid. these are all guys, man, that are different, can be difference makers defensively. And if the Carolina Panthers, and honestly, I'll say this. I always say this about rookie quarterbacks and young quarterbacks. The best, thing for them, in their first year, and I could say this about Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis, is having a good running back, a good running game, somebody that's going to take the load off of their shoulders. You can hand Miles Sanders the ball, and he can pick up tough yardage on a third down situation. You could give him Duncan to him,
and
they have a
really underrated offensive line. Like it should be an
right.
offensive line that's able to run the football pretty effectively this upcoming
Right.
season.
I honestly think that this team is closer to winning 7-8 games than winning 6 games. In my opinion, this season.
Let's find out how we think things are going to shake out. Let's talk about their record prediction. Let's just rip through the schedule real quick. So the first game of the year, they go to the Atlanta Falcons, take on the Atlanta Falcons there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. How do you see that game shaking out? I have the Falcons winning that one against Carolina.
Yes, I got the Falcons winning that, but that'll be a close game, though, I think, in my opinion. But they lose that game.
The next game, the New Orleans Saints come into their house. How do you see that game shaking out?
They lose that game.
I also think they lose that game. I actually think they lose the first 4 games of their.
They lose the first 4 games. Almost 5 games.
I actually think they lose the first 6 games of their schedule. I think that's a kind of a gauntlet of a schedule. I think they lose to Atlanta. I think they lose to New Orleans. I think they lose Seattle, Minnesota, Detroit, and Miami. They lose the first 6 games going into their bye. Do you disagree?
I don't disagree at all. But that's just on paper, though, because they can come out. They can come out at home and beat a team like Minnesota, who showed last year that they on the road that they have had struggles. Right? They can
Minnesota struggles with a team like Carolina and how they're going to play football. They're going to run the football heavy. Like they're going to run the ball 30, 40 times a game. Like Minnesota.
Also, I look at a team. I look at a team like the Saints too. Like them going into.
We don't really know what Derek Carr is going to look like. We don't really know what Derek Carr is going to look like. After their bye, they got 2 games at home against the AFC South. The Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts coming to town. How do you see those 2 games shaking out?
I think those are 2 wins. I think the Houston Texans matchup is going to be billed. CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young. But Carolina has a better team at this point. I'm actually, you know what? Honestly, David, I'm actually gonna pick them to be at least 1-6 going into the bye. I think they could beat Minnesota at home. There's just something about Minnesota. They're gonna come in there. I think Minnesota's gonna come in there, and I think David. No, I think this Minnesota. Okay, respectively disagree, but I think Minnesota's going to come in there and they're going to play down to the level of the competition. They're going to overlook the Carolina Panthers. They're going to take an L. So give me 1-5, and then 3-5 going into that Bears game.
I will have them win both those games at home against the AFC South. Both those teams are in a rebuild, just like Carolina, but I'll have them at 2-6 going into Soldier Field to take on the Chicago Bears. I will take the Chicago Bears to win that game. I think homer. Justin Field, it is a little bit of a homer pick. But I do think the Chicago Bears are going to be better this season. I think the defense will be improved. I think their offense will be better. Give me the Bears. I got them 2-7.
Going to Chicago is a tough place to play too for a rookie quarterback. So give me the Bears as well. 3-6.
And then the Dallas Cowboys coming to town. I have them losing that game as well. I got them falling all the way to 2-8. This is just a difficult schedule. This is a difficult schedule for teams that's not that good.
Michael Parsons is going to make things a lot difficult on Bryce Young over there. Yeah, give me the Dallas Cowboys as well. 3-7.
Moving into 3 games on the road, they go to Tennessee, they go to Tampa Bay, and they go to New Orleans. How do you think? Do they win any of those games?
No, they beat Tennessee, they beat Tampa, definitely. So but they lose to New Orleans at home for sure.
I'm only going to give them that Tennessee game because I have no idea what's going on with the quarterback position or the rest of the roster of the Tennessee Titans.
5-8 for me.
I got them now at 3 and. Was that 10? Yeah, 3-10. Going into the final 4 games of the season.
I got them at 5-8.
And then the Atlanta Falcons come back, and he's got the NFC South. The Falcons come into Carolina. How do you see that game shaking out?
I think they split with Atlanta. They went at home against Atlanta late in the season. 6-8 right
I'll
now
agree
at
with you
this
on that. I
juncture
got
for me.
4-10. They then Green Bay and Jordan Love come to town. How do you see that game shaking out for the Panthers and Packers?
I don't want to be a homer per se, but I think at this juncture, the Green Bay Packers are either going to be pretty good, vying for a playoff spot, and like have a lot of momentum, or
Okay.
they might not be good at all. So it goes both ways. But I'm gonna go with the Green Bay Packers because I'm gonna go with the first thing I said. I think they're gonna have momentum towards late in the season.
I
Defense
also
vying for
think
a
that
playoff
I'm
spot.
also going to take the Green Bay Packers. I just think outside of the quarterback position, I just think the Green Bay Packers are a more talented football team than the Carolina Panthers. We don't know. We see Jordan Love in small bursts. We don't really know what he'd be in a full season. I'll take Green Bay to win that game. And then they go to Jacksonville in Duval County. I think they lose that game as well. So I got them at 4-12 going into that final game against Tampa. Who do you got, Jacksonville or Carolina?
I got Carolina beating Jackson. I mean Carolina losing to Jacksonville late in the season. Now they're what 6-10 on my schedule, and then I got them sweeping the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think
Yeah, I
Tampa
got
Bay
the
is gonna be good at all, man. Come on, man.
we'll
You
talk
guys
about
are,
Tampa Bay on Thursday.
come on,
But yeah,
come
I got
on.
them going in. I got Tampa Bay going in there and losing. I have the Carolina finishing the season 5-12, in a rebuild season at 5-12. Oh, we got Adam Dell in the house. What's up, baby, Mr. Dell?
I think Tampa's gonna be in the top 3 quarterback. They're gonna be in the
I
the
mean,
the the, the
that's what I'm
Caleb
saying.
Williams.
It wouldn't be crazy if the Atlanta Falcons win this division. But
Right, they're
I
gonna
have
be in the
Carolina
Caleb
at 5,
Williams,
5-12.
Drake May, Jordan
Um,
Travis sweepstakes.
But I think as long as you see production, see consistent improvement from week to week, um,
I,
I
I
think
got them
Green
exactly
Bay
at 7-10. So
they might win division at 7-10. Let's be.
no, man, I had the Saints winning the division. I think I had the Saints at 11 wins,
Yeah,
if
that's
I'm not
crazy.
mistaken.
That's not
I did
happening.
have the Saints at 11 wins. I had the Saints sweeping Atlanta. I had the Saints sweeping the division. Actually, I think the Saints are going to sweep the division.
I had the Saints, I
But
think, at 8-9 or something like that. But I still think Carolina. I think Atlanta wins this division. I will die on that rock. But yeah, this has been our Carolina Panthers season preview. Thank you very much for checking us out here. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. On tomorrow's show, we're going to be doing our first mock draft for the NBA, as we now know the lottery where the lottery is. So we're going to do a lottery mock draft before the game 3 of the NBA
I
Finals.
wonder who the number 1 pick's going to be.
It's pregnant. We don't know. But yeah, keep an eye out for that content. That's going to go live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you very much for checking us out. I'm the host, David On Point, CEO, Israel Rivera. And Izzy, what do we do here at the Prime, my friend?
We bring the heat, ladies and gentlemen. And I
Yes,
swear
sir.
I better get more viewers than this. Hey, 3 viewers not bad, but I want to see double amount tomorrow. It's the NBA. Our NBA shows have been doing very well. So thank you for joining the show and watching our NBA content. But I want to see this football content.
Ernest has got the Carolina Panthers winning the
Panthers
division.
winning the division. Hey, it's not far-fetched, Ernest. That is not far-fetched. At 7-10, they possibly can, but I don't see it. I see the New Orleans Saints winning the division.
I got the Falcons winning the division. We'll be breaking down Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Thursday. You don't want to miss that content. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good night.
Peace out, guys.